So I'm gonna introduce our amazing guest this evening. I'm gonna bring up Anita. Anita, oh, she's shaking her head like she doesn't want to come up here. Let's give Anita a round of applause. Here's your weapon. Here's your weapon. So I'm not gonna sit here and list Anita's bio because she handed it to me the other day when I came over and chatted with her office. I had not the opportunity to meet her, and finally got to sit down with her. She sent it to me. It's like 12 or 15 pages long of just 4 pages, give or take. But it was full of some amazing things that she has accomplished in this community. Anita is the president and CEO of actually 2 companies here in town. Wilson Building Maintenance was her first one she founded, and then Metro Courier, which she bought back in 1999. And then she's sat on, I think I counted that, I lost count at about 50 board positions that you've held in the 40 years that you've been in business. And so it's quite a bit. So she has got an amazing story to tell. And so I'm just going to kick it over to Anita. If there's anything else that you'd like to say about yourself before I start grilling you with questions, the stage is yours.
I've worked my butt off.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have. Well, so let's rewind back to when you were a kid. So is Wichita home for you?
No, I'm from Racine, Wisconsin. And actually, when I was a baby, lived in New York, lived in Colorado, lived in Texas, lived in Oklahoma. But the way I got here was my mom and dad were divorced. And my dad didn't want my mom to know where he lived. So he was sending all of his letters to my grandma in New York. So we always thought he lived in New York. Well, I was about 14, and I ran away from home. And I called my dad. I said, come pick me up. And so he picked me up, and I ended up in Wichita. So that's how I got here.
Well, and I remember you said that you spent some time out of the United States.
Yeah, I lived in Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico. So how'd you end up in Puerto Rico?
My dad was the manager for the gem store here. Probably some of the older people remember the gem store. But it was the first, like, Costco. It was like that. And my dad had the opportunity to be a manager in Puerto Rico. So I was 15, I was dating a surfer, and the Beach Boys were popular. It wasn't, life couldn't have been much better.
But you decided to come back to Wichita, though.
Yeah,
Leave the beach.
I missed my brothers and sisters, so I came home.
Well, and so during your childhood, you've been a business owner for 40 plus years now. So when you were growing up, was there any sense that you were going to be an entrepreneur? Did you know what an entrepreneur was? Did you even know what owning a business was when you were growing up?
I had no idea, but I will tell you a little story. When I was a kid, the grocery store, if you had $100 worth of receipts, you got $1. So I'd go back in their trash bin and dig out all the receipts and get $1. And then I'd buy a box of Clark bars, and I'd use those Clark bars against my brothers and sister. And I'd go, I'll give you a Clark bar if you'll do the dishes.
There you go. That's a scrappy. There you go.
Yeah.
There's entrepreneurship right in there when you're doing that. So you lived in a lot of different places, and so when did you officially say, I'm going to call Wichita home?
I was living in Dallas, and I got a divorce, and my dad was living in Wichita, so I moved here. And I worked for Cessna. I got married again, and then the business kind of started out of that. He was very abusive, and one night he came home and popped me, and I had 2 black eyes, and that's how Wilson started.
Well, talk a little bit about Wilson Building Maintenance. It was 1979 when
1978.
1978 when you started. So talk about when the decision came to think about starting the business, kind of the first couple years of the business, and just, there was a lot that went on there because everybody thinks there's this overnight success. You blink and you're just successful, and just it happens that way.
No, actually, I started sweeping parking lots. I bought a $1,000 sweeper. It was a ride-on sweeper, and I started sweeping parking lots. Well, then I started striping parking lots, and I actually did the striping myself with a big motorized striping machine. And then people would say, can you clean? Can you do cleaning? Would you do a construction cleanup? So I started doing construction cleanups, and one of my very first jobs was Oliver 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is like 1 million square feet. And it was just me and a couple kids that did it. It wasn't a big deal because You know, it was just the bathrooms and sweeping the floor and that kind of stuff. But then people would say, do you want to try cleaning my building? So I was like, well, yeah, I could probably do that. I clean my house. So I started cleaning buildings. And then, you know, I would actually get up in the morning, go out and sell all day. I mean, I might sit in somebody's office for a couple hours just to get in front of them to talk to them. You know, but there was kind of that intrigue with women in business back then. So, I mean, I kind of had an ace in the hole, really. So I just started selling and picking up buildings. And
So did you ever sleep?
I had a 4 hours.
4 hours? 4
Yeah.
hours? Well, and then kind of on the first days of doing Wilson, so you were sweeping park lots, striping floors, and then, I mean, you landed 1 million square feet on a construction cleanup. That doesn't just happen. I mean, you had to have built a reputation for yourself in order to get that, or, you know, you had to, what do you kind of equate that first break to really be able to get that?
I think the guy saw me out there sweeping the parking lot and striping all by myself and thought, I'm going to give this person a chance.
So where do you equate that work ethic? Where did that come from?
I mean, my mom and dad were both hard workers. When my mom and dad got a divorce, my mom went out and worked, tried to support us. So.
Well, and so as you were growing Wilson, you know, and I remember you had mentioned that, I mean, you cleaned Cessna, you cleaned Boeing, you cleaned Learjet, you cleaned Coke, you cleaned, I mean, every major employer, I think, is on your resume of things that you built, or not you built, that you cleaned. And so talk about how, you know, that process about how do you win those clients. I mean, because in this room, we have a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of salespeople, a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs for that matter, and they're trying to understand, you know, how did you get to where you are today, and the process that took, because, you know, people are looking to learn from you.
Yeah, I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And one of my first big contracts was LSI, and I had no idea how to clean a big building like that. But I landed the contract, and I was befriended, you know, by the engineer that actually ran the janitorial. And he just sat down and said, Anita, you just divide up the building and give, you know, so much to each person, and they do it. And so he was really the one that taught me how to do it.
Well, and as you were growing the business, was there somebody that mentored you through the process, or was there somebody you looked to and, you know, said, you know, I love how that person runs their business and I want to be just like them? Is there somebody that kind of really coached you through the process?
Well, I'll tell you, the best thing I ever did is somebody asked me, and it might have been Linda Detain, do you want to join the chamber? And I thought, man, that's a lot, $160 back then. I went, man, that's a lot of money. And they convinced me that that was something where I could meet people and, you know, network, and, you know, there would be potential clients there and all that. So I joined the chamber, and I got involved in everything there. I was in the Ambassadors Club, which the ambassadors went out to ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings and new businesses. And just think about that. I'm trying to promote my business, and I'm in front of people. We were able to go and call on members of the chamber as an ambassador. And I never really pushed my business, but I made damn sure they had my business card, you know. And so it just kind of spiraled from there.
Well, and so how long were you actually selling the jobs and also doing the jobs? So how long did that go before you started bringing on employees?
Probably like 5 years. Yeah, when I first started, I had a station wagon, and I would load like a bucket and a mop and a vacuum cleaner and all this stuff, back cleaning stuff, and I'd just go from building to building. And then so it would be me, and then I got another kid, and then 2 more people, and then then I had to count on people to be in the buildings and doing the job, and me overseeing the jobs, and so it was like 5 years.
Well, and during that 5-year period, was there a point that you just said, I give up? Why am I doing this? I mean, is there ever that point that you just kind of looked in the mirror and said, what am I doing?
You know, my dad one time said, why don't you just go bankrupt? And it was like, I just couldn't do that. I owed the bank. Back when I started my business, you go to the bank and say, I need some money. What do you need it for? Payroll. Okay. You know, it wasn't like you had to give them 3 years of financials and, your business plan and all that. It was it was pretty easy. But I got into major debt, you know, in the beginning. And so what I did then is I didn't even know how to read a financial. So I worked with the SCORE people, Service Corps of Retired Executives. And this man named Dick Forwalter taught me how to read financials. And so I started doing financials on every building. And I had buildings that I was losing money on. And one of them was this woman that was a real, she was, there's a word for it, it starts with a B. Anyway, we found out I found out I wasn't making money on it. I got to go tell her that I wasn't going to do her building anymore.
Well, and so going to that, and it sounds like, you continue to add clients and add clients and add clients. So when somebody comes to you with a 1 million square feet building, and I mean, in the back of your mind, like, I can't do this. I mean, did that ever cross your mind of just saying, or is it just, let's just figure it out?
I think we progressed into the great big buildings. It's like, I started with LSI, it was like 335,000 square feet, and then I did Pizza Hut corporate headquarters. I used to do Garvey Center and all that, and I don't know, it just kind of evolved, and then I got the big fish. I worked 6 years taking this guy to lunch every month, Chinese, Mexican, you name it, hamburgers. And so 6 years, I took him to dinner. So by the time 6 years had rolled around and he let me bid the job, I knew everything. I knew how many people were in there cleaning. I knew what they liked, what they didn't like, and it was Koch Industries. And I've had them since 1988.
Still to this day, you have Koch Industries?
Yeah, I have Koch.
Wow. So for those that don't really understand commercial cleaning, what goes into cleaning a building like that? What's the process?
Well, like you figure out how many square feet a person can clean in 8 hours, and you train them and then let them go. But there's a lot of oversight. A lot of people, like one of the guys in here is my COO, and we just started May's Schools, 15 buildings, 1.5 million square feet. We just started that. So
how many employees is Wilson up to now?
I think 150 something.
Well, and so as you were growing that to 150 employees, like how do you manage the people? I mean, what is your leadership style?
I kind of let people do their own thing, and if they don't do work according to our standards, then they got to go. And we have very high standards. I mean, you wouldn't have Coke for that many years if you didn't.
Well, and then with your employees, I remember when we were speaking before this, you talked about you have a lot of employees who've been with you for a very long time. What do you equate that to?
I think they like me. I don't know.
Or that they're family.
Yeah, no, we are a family. That's exactly right.
So, was there a point that you had lost a client? I mean, or because like when you're those, I mean, everybody's a very attention to detail, and everybody's about saving, crunching pennies, making sure they're saving dollars and everything like that. So, was there a time that you lost a major client, and walk us through that process?
Yeah, we picked up Cessna aircraft, and had 67 employees there, and they went out for bid, and this national company came in and gave them a bid. And they were thinking about switching. Well, I knew the president of the company through my involvement with the YMCA. And I went up to him and I said, hey, this is happening. He said, don't worry, I'll get it fixed. And so we got it fixed for a couple years. They came back, 2 years later. And this is what kills me, If you're a DBE, you're not supposed to own a jet. Well, they had a jet. So I'm like, okay, how do you do that? But anyway, they were like a couple $100,000 less. And I was at a Boy Scout meeting. I was the president of the Boy Scouts. And I was at one of our board meetings. And I got the call from, Charlie Johnson, who was the president of Cessna. And he said, I can't save you anymore. It's a couple $100,000. I was just devastated, 14 years we did their work. And I had to I had to try to figure out what to do with all my people.
So when you get that call, what's the immediate reaction that goes through your head?
Probably a lot of cuss words.
Well, you're still
Oh,
here.
you know what?
Well, you're still here to this day, so you're able to get through it. You persevered through it. Walk us through what happened over the next few months after that.
What happened was in '99 I bought Metro Courier, and Metro was just a local delivery company, just Wichita, Kansas only. And we had a major pharmaceutical client that said, you will be, Friday, right? On Monday, we want you to be statewide. So Monday, we were a statewide company. Well, we were losing our butt because we were charging, $14 to run a package to St. Francis, Kansas. So we were losing, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I was depending on Wilson's income, to help Metro survive. And when we lost Cessna, that just about put both of them down the tubes.
Well, and rewind back to when Metro came up for sale. What was your reasoning for wanting to buy the company?
Well, we were looking to buy, and I say we, I had a manager at that time, or a vice president that was just awesome. And he thought we should be in another business. And we saw these they were Geo Metro cars that they had. And they had a place down on Mosley. And we both just almost simultaneously said, that'd be first we looked at buying a taxi cab company.
So why didn't you buy a taxi cab company?
It was just too weird. They use all contractors, they lease the cars to the drivers, and then the drivers are actually contractors. And I just didn't think you could have control over somebody that wasn't your employee.
Well, it sounds a lot like Uber.
It wasn't Uber.
Hey, you could have had an Uber of the 1990s, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, and so with Metro Courier, so you buy the company, you lose the Cessna contract, and you're dependent on Wilson to backfill what was being lost by Metro, and then you're getting asked to go statewide almost over a few days, over a weekend to be able to do it. I mean, it sounds like it was a perfect storm for both organizations just to go down the tube.
Yeah, and the lucky part was I had bought the building downtown and had equity in it. So I took the equity out of that and pumped it into the business. So it was lucky that I had that.
Well, and during that time, I mean, you've been in business with Wilson for quite some time. Talk about the relationships that you've built in the community and how those have been beneficial for you. Because I mean, you're still in business in 2018, and it's been celebrating 40 years with Wilson, and then Metro. You're just shy of what is that, 30 years now?
It was started in '85.
Well, and so talk about the relationships and how that, because I mean, it seems to be Wichita has been very, very good to you over the years. Can you talk about building the relationships, because you've been on numerous boards, you're working with all the presidents, the local organizations here in town. So, what really drives you to be so active in the community?
I just think it's a great thing to be involved in your community. I mean, you're involved. You see what it does. And, business is all about relationships. You have to build relationships with your customers. So a lot of the people, over the years I've met through volunteer, activities. So, I mean, like one of the big ones that I was involved in was youth entrepreneurs. Well, I've been in the Koch's house, at multiple parties and getting to know them. And so, the big dog, it's kind of help save your wagon here every once in a while. And you got to perform. You can't just join a community group and just expect to sit on a board and do nothing. You have to be involved. You have to work,
Well, and going back, I mean, it's when going through the involvement you've had in the community, I mean, you were really a pioneer within this community from a woman-owned business. I mean, you did a lot in this community. You were the first to do a lot of things in this community. And what pushed you to, you were the first chairperson of the Chamber of Commerce. You were the first president of the Greater YMCA Board. You were the first president of the Boy Scouts of America, the first woman president. I mean, those are very good. Those are very high achievements. and from a Midwest city that seems to, I will say sometimes we lack the desire to be diverse in this community, but yet you challenge that and you continue to do so. So, going back to that, when you wanted to become those, what's kind of the thought process that went through your head to say, I want to become the leader of these organizations?
It just kind of evolved. I got involved in a membership committee or this committee or that committee. And the funny thing with the chamber was, I don't know if anybody remembers Mike Oberwortmann, but he owned KFDI. And he called me one day and he said, "Is there anything we can do for you?" And I said, "Well, I'd really like to be the chairman of the chamber." And by God, it happened. They called me up and asked me if I wanted to do it. And I mean, who wouldn't? It was a great experience. It was a really great experience.
Well, it sounds like when an opportunity comes knocking, you answer the door. I mean, that's something that I think a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs are almost, I'm not necessarily going to be, then they hear an opportunity knocking and they sometimes don't answer that door. So, and so what guides you when they ask you that question? It's like, instantly it's like, yeah, I can do that. I mean, and I don't think I consciously thought this, but I wanted everybody to know my name, I wanted people to think about me when they wanted to do business. Yeah, Anita Oberwortmann, I know who she is. Yeah, I'll give her a call. Just kind of like that. But I didn't really push my business. I expected them to see me perform as a volunteer and say, "Wow, that lady really works hard. I bet she'd be great at doing our work." So. Well, it sounds like you are one that have your actions speak louder than your words, in a big way. Well, and so looking back, what's when did you look at your career and say, I've made it, I'm there?
I haven't.
You haven't.
I'm not yet. No.
Not yet.
No. I still have big dreams.
What are those big dreams?
I mean, I want Metro to be a national courier service. I do. I kind of think. I worry about Wilson going out from here because it's so management intensive, but I go to places like Tulsa and Oak City and all that. Look at all those big buildings, and I'm like, maybe. Brian, do you think we should? Yeah.
Well, you're doing something, right? I mean, you guys have had Coke since, what'd you say,
88.
1988, and you still have Coke to this day. Has there been a time that you've almost lost Coke?
A couple years ago, somebody came in and said, we were doing 30,000 square feet in 8 hours. And so my building downtown is 30,000 square feet. One person cleans that in a night, okay? So this guy came to him and said, I can do 40,000 square feet in a night. And they kept going back and forth with us, what do you think? Can you do it? We better try it. So now, that's what we're doing. And they're happy. They understand they're not going to get what they were getting. It's about the buck, Yeah,
absolutely. Well, and so going back to Metro Courier, there's no Geo Metros, going around anymore. I mean, you have semis up and down the, I-35 that I see say Metro Courier on them, or Metro Express, and all the different ones out there. So talk a little bit about where Metro Courier and the evolution that it's been through, and where is it going?
Well, like I said, first of all, it was just a local delivery company. Then we went statewide. We lost our butt. We went kind of pulled back in and went out statewide a little bit at a time. And we've been involved in some associations, CLDA, and another one. ECA. Thank you. But, they're courier associations. People, and they're shippers that are looking to do the last mile. And so we were lucky enough to pick up from JWL Logistics, Amazon. So we started doing Amazon deliveries here in Wichita, and we started with just a few routes, like 8? 3! We started with 3.
They're keeping you honest back there.
And now we have 15, but we have 35 total. So they asked us to go to, thank you.
Her leadership style is she delegates. She allows them to run the business. I love it.
But anyway, so then they came to us and asked us if we want to do Amarillo. So we picked up Amarillo, and then they asked us if we wanted to do Odessa. So we did Odessa, and then, peak happens with Amazon. So then you about double the amount of trucks that it's unreal doing Amazon. But we've been asked to go into other cities, and we're just kind of like, let's get our, systems and stuff in place, and then we'll think about it.
Well, and that's, I think, a lot of entrepreneurs, they struggle with that because, they want to have the hockey stick growth. They want to have that quick growth, but you can grow too quickly. And, it sounds like from your standpoint is you're managing your growth. And so, when you look at, how you run a business, is there, do you look at other CEOs and you watch how they run their businesses? Is there somebody that you can point to that says, I love that style, and you, or maybe the better question is where did you gain all your business acumen from?
Just from different people, just watching different people. And then all the boards that I served on. There were other business people on there, and we were running an organization, and I saw how they operated, and, that kind of helped me. It did help me.
Well, and a couple of your family's here. So can you point out who your family is in the room right now? I know you got a few of them.
My son James.
Okay.
And my daughter-in-law Jessica.
Right there.
She is. That's my family.
Well, now how many of them are involved in the organization right now?
Just my son.
Okay. So how was when did you decide that said, hey, I want to bring my kids into the business?
Well, my vice president, his name was Dean Biggs, and he was the most awesome guy you would ever meet in your whole life. He was such a great business person, and a good friend. He really cared about me. And he died. And so it just left this big void. Well, my son was working in Dallas. He was working for a company that managed emergency rooms, doctors' practices, and so he might have 30 clients that he was working with every day. And I asked him to come back, and so he left what he was doing and came back. And
you got to move back to Wichita.
From Dallas.
From Dallas. Hey, that's a win for Wichita. There we go.
Yeah.
Well, and so how's that transition been going so far? It's like you have Metro Courier and you have Wilson Building Maintenance. Two organizations that you have over 300 employees total between the two of them, and you're president and CEO of both of them. And so so are you able to manage both of them?
How am I what?
How are you managing both of them?
I mainly manage Wilson. Okay. James mainly manages Metro.
Okay.
So.
Well, and so you talked about youth entrepreneurs, and and YE is the foundation of YE is mentoring, and it's teaching young students the value of entrepreneurship and business ownership, and so kind of on that, do you see yourself mentoring other folks in the community?
I would if I was asked. I'm not actively seeking that, but I would if I was asked. Yeah.
Well, and when we're talking about your board involvement, are you still involved to this day with a lot of your boards?
I'm only on 2 boards right now.
Two.
And it's BOMA, Building Owners and Managers Association. I'm on their board, and International Facility Managers board.
So what's the most number of boards you were on at one time?
I think I was the president of 4 boards at one time. And
What was your favorite?
Probably the chamber. Okay. Yeah, and the Y. The Y was great. The Cancer Society, I was the chair of the board for 4 states. So that was kind of interesting, going to national meetings and stuff like that. And the things you have to listen to. Like, I remember one board meeting, they were trying to figure out how many delegates they would have for each state. And I was like, aren't you here to fight cancer? Do you really, does it really matter? So.
Well, there's several entrepreneurs in this room that have either started businesses or are starting to start a business. And what advice would you give them for an entrepreneur who has this business idea? And they want to get started. What from your 40 years of experience so far in running a business, 2 businesses actually, what's some advice that you'd like to share with them?
I mean, look for somebody to mentor you. That would be a big thing. Get involved in the chamber or WEBA or something business-like, where you can see and be involved with other people and, get on some committees, and that's what you have to do.
So I'm going to go with some rapid fire questions right now that aren't, they're not bad questions, they're fun questions. So what's your definition of success?
Happiness. That's it.
If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
A superpower?
A superpower.
I'd be able to fly.
Okay, now why would you like to be able to fly?
So I can get away from people.
What is your favorite business book?
My favorite business book?
Business book. Or just book in general.
Oh, boy. I like to read, so I don't really have a favorite.
Okay. So when you like to read, so do you read for pleasure or for work, or for professional?
Pleasure.
For pleasure?
Pleasure.
So,
I do most of my work stuff on the internet.
okay. Well, and so if anybody got on your computer right now, what's the one thing that would be on your browser?
Right. IFMA, BOMA, yeah, dog stuff.
So you have a dog?
I have 2 dogs.
2 dogs. What are their names?
Charlie and Jade.
And what kind of dogs are they?
I have a pit bull, my second one,
All right.
and a golden retriever chow.
Okay. Very good. So 2 big dogs.
80 pounds on one and 40 on the other.
Wow. Wow. Favorite movie?
Why are you asking me these questions?
I said rapid fire questions.
Oh, I don't know. There are so many good ones.
If you weren't doing what you were doing today, what would it be?
That's a good question. Oh, I don't know. Hanging out in the mountains.
Hanging out in the mountains. So what profession do you wish you would have done?
Acting.
Acting. Did you
Singing and acting.
Singing and acting. Do you sing now?
No.
No.
But I have done karaoke and quite a bit of it.
Okay.
What? Oh, no.
You do.
No.
Favorite vacation spot?
British Virgin Islands.
Okay. What is your favorite thing about Wichita?
The people.
Very
I
good.
love the people. I don't think I could have done what I've done anywhere else. Because people have just been welcoming and inviting, and you think about being a woman involved. I mean, when women, they talk about the glass ceiling, when women were actually, breaking through and becoming presidents of banks and, leaders, I've just had an unbelievable opportunity, and I've been very, very lucky.
Well, and I mean, people say, is it preparation and hard work, or equals what is it? I always blank on this, but there's no such thing as luck. You're prepared in the moment, and when the door opens, you're there to take advantage of it. There's a lot of folks in this room and outside of this room that weren't able to be here today that have a lot of respect for you for what you've done in this community, because you've done it in Wichita, and that's saying a lot, because you've been able to do so much, and for so many people too. You've impacted several, not only within your family, but also the folks in this room too as well. And you've received quite a few awards over the years. What do you, when you're looking back, what's the award that meant the most to you?
Probably Junior Achievement Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good one. And then I've gotten some awards for being an activist in domestic violence. So those mean a lot to me too.
Well, and then looking back in your 40 years, what's the one thing you would have done differently?
Probably been a better mother. I mean, really. Because all I thought about was James, when he was a little kid, I used to drop him off at school at 7 o'clock in the morning to be at 7:30 meetings, and pick him up at 6 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm.
So, just been more of a family person.
Well, I know James. James is a pretty good dude, so I think you did all right.
Good. Well,
Well,
he's taken on a big responsibility.
well, absolutely, absolutely. My grandfather always told me when I was growing up, there's no child labor laws in family businesses.
Yeah.
I mean, you're always working. I mean, if it's on a Saturday, he was probably there working. You're always going to be put to work in every way, shape, and form. But the thing is your work ethic is seen, throughout everybody else within your organization. You've been in business for over 40 years, and you have several people who've been with you for a lot of those years too as well. So I mean, you've set a good example for a lot of people in this community. Well, and I will say that she is probably one of the most humble people entrepreneurs that I've met in this community. We've had the opportunity to interview so many people on this stage, and the humility that she has is just you can't find it anywhere else, and her work ethic is unmatchable by a lot of folks in this community. If I could take your work ethic and put it in all the millennials in this community, I think we're a lot further ahead in this community than we are right now. Well, and talking a little bit about Wichita in the future, what would you like to see with the vision of Wichita?
I'd like us to definitely hang on to our young people. That's something. And somehow make this a place where people want to work, so there's a workforce. Mm-hmm. That's one thing there's really a lack of. Everybody's screaming for labor. So probably those kind of things.
So where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years?
I'll still be working. He may not like it. Oh, probably. I mean, we talked a lot about when the transition's going to take place. Mm-hmm. So, we talked about 7 years, but I think it's more like 10 years. And I still probably want to be chairman emeritus.
So where do you find your inspiration at to get up every single day?
My people, really. I have the best people. They're so damn good. I mean, it's like I really work a lot at home because I don't need to be looking at the back of their heads. They just do their job. I don't have to worry about them. Mm-hmm. I have really good people. I'm very lucky.
I'm trying to think of another question. I'm trying to throw some more at you, but I don't know if you appreciate some of the questions that I got for you.
Like what?
Well, I can't ask you what.
Movies and books?
Movies and books.
I mean,
those are the easiest questions that I had, and you can't even give me anything.
I read a paper newspaper. I read a paper business journal. I like to have things in my hand. I read a book. I don't read Kindle. No. No.
Well, and so kind of talking about, with technology, how does technology play a role inside your business?
I mean, it's big time at Metro, big time. We have the technology to know if people are speeding, whether they have their seatbelt on, whether they're braking hard. I forget all the things, but it's kind of like Big Brother, mm-hmm. But it's like Steve Pendergraph was saying, that's my time. I paid you for that time, so I can do that, Mm-hmm. So, and it's helped us tremendously. Like the other day, one of the guys had a really bad wreck with a truck. He went under an 11-foot bridge with a 26-foot box truck. Sorry, guys. But he said he had gone that same route the day before. Well, we pulled it up on the computer, and he sure the hell didn't. So anyway, he doesn't work for us anymore.
Well, in talking to, so I want to open up to questions here in about probably 1 or 2 minutes. And so if you could leave these folks with 1 or 2 things to walk away with, what would you like to leave them with?
I don't know, probably anything's possible. You just got to put your back into it, your passion into it. I mean, anything is possible. I started out with a bucket and a mop and a vacuum cleaner in a station wagon with a high school kid helping me, you know. And now I have 300 employees, you know. So it's, and I didn't go to college. I didn't go to college. Everything I learned by doing it, by being involved in the community, you know, by reaching out to SCORE, you know, just anything's possible. It really is.
Well, and that's, you know, we had, I think we talked a little bit about this, about, you know, everybody, you know, wants to dream up that overnight success, but they don't ever see the sleepless nights, the hard work that goes into it. I mean, you were selling all day, working all night, and, you know, you put in the hard work that it takes to be where you're at today. You know, and it's, I think maybe my last question for you is, do you have any regrets in the past 40 years with the business?
I don't know. Not really. I mean, I wish we could have kept a lot of the accounts that we've lost, but you know, most of them were through no fault of our own. So, I don't know.
Well, you're still in business to this day, so you must be doing something right. I mean, it's 40 years in Wilson Building Maintenance, and you're still cleaning Coke, so I think you're doing all right over there. Well, let's give Anita a round of applause. And if anybody has a question, I'm going to raise your hand, and I will bring the mic to you right here up front.
I have 3 questions, so I'll just put them all together. The first one is, what was the turning point when you had to borrow the extra money and then take out the loan on the building and keep expanding to be able to turn the business around? What was the turning point when it finally started working, when you thought it was going under? And then what was your biggest challenge in business, and what advice do you wish you would have had then that you now know?
Well, you're going to have to do one question at a time.
Okay. Okay, the first one, the business turnaround.
Well, we were losing lots of money, and so we pulled everything back in and got rid of the client that we were losing the money on. And that's one of the things. If you're not making money, we do financials on all of our buildings, so we know if we're making a profit or not making a profit. And so you just got to make sure you're profitable, or you're not going to be in business. So what was your second question?
What was your biggest challenge professionally?
Figuring out how to do big buildings. You know, that
Just
was
the
it.
logistics.
Yeah, logistics.
And then what advice do you wish, or information do you wish you would have had or known whenever, that you now know, that you look back and go, oh gosh, I wish that was the thing I knew?
I mean, over the years, we probably wasted so much money. It would have been nice to have more controls in place. So that would probably be it.
Thank you.
I got one. I actually had questions back here that I kind of forgot that I had printed out.
Oh, no.
So this is a fun question. If you could be queen of Wichita for a day, what would you do?
If I could be queen.
If you were queen of Wichita, if you had the keys to Wichita to do whatever you wanted in Wichita, what would you do?
I'd get those millennials off their butt. That's what I'd do.
And this was one of my rapid fire questions. I'm going to go over to Mary Beth, but I'm going to ask this real quick. Any unusual talent or skill that you have that people don't know about?
Unusual talent or skill that I don't really
that you're willing to admit to? Nothing?
What? Oh, yeah, I used to weave.
You used to weave?
Yeah, I have a loom. Yeah.
Very cool.
It was something. I know.
Anita, my question is about control and leadership versus delegation. Do you see that as a battle? Do you see that as a spectrum? I mean, do you look back and think, oh, I should have delegated that years ago, or nah, I should have kept that in my control longer? I mean, what's that balance as a leader? You've had great people, family and not, but yet it's your business, right? How do you think about what you give away and what you keep?
That's hard. You know, like when I first started, it was hard to let somebody else do the cleaning because I was so dang picky, you know. And it is hard to delegate. But now that I've been in business for so long, I just trust in people to do their job. And you kind of have to make sure you get the right people that will do the job,
Anita, I just want to say, this is just a comment. When you mentioned that it was your dad who ran the gym store,
Yeah.
I remember that. And when you said that, that took me back to when I was a little girl and walking into the gym and the smell of the caramel corn
Yeah.
just permeated everything. And you just took me back to years ago. I just want to say thank you for that. That was wonderful.
Yeah, that was the first, like Costco. Yeah. It was a membership thing.
So another rapid fire question that I'm looking through
no.
these. So to an entrepreneur, I want you to finish the question. To an entrepreneur, failure is?
Unthinkable.
I like it. And I'm trying to go through all these different questions that I have. What's one thing that's on your bucket list that you haven't been able to accomplish yet?
Going nationwide with Metro.
Okay. And then what do you say your biggest strength is as a business owner?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
So business, it's going nationwide. What's a personal thing on your bucket list?
A jet, right, a jet. No, I just want to be happy and live a simple life. That's it.
We also want to go see Sicily, where her family came from.
Yeah.
Okay. So Sicily is where the...
My dad was full-blooded Sicilian. They were from Valadolma.
Is there still family there? You don't know?
We'll find out.
All right, there you go. What do you say your biggest strength is as a business owner?
I think being able to let go. Mm-hmm. I am not a micromanager. Like he said, I still call every day to see what's going on, but I'm not like hounding him about stuff.
So
Yeah.
So on the flip side, he's not no sarcasm? No sarcasm. So then what's your biggest weakness?
Being too generous
How so?
with my money. Not keeping enough for myself.
Well, I mean, so when you say that, are you one to is there a lot of nonprofits you like to work with here in this community?
Right now we're full. Yeah.
full. Okay. Any other questions?
Oh, not you again.
How do you balance the growth when you're saying we want to wait till we have everything settled before we go nationwide? How do you balance the speed of growth and know when you're ready to grow that fast or get out there?
Well, I mean, like, we took on all this Amazon stuff all at one time, and it was just like, Wah! And so we have to have procedures and controls and all that in place before we can do any growing. A model that you can take to each city and, do it the same everywhere.
Do you think you'll go bite-sized pieces or will you go all at once?
Say what?
Will you go bite-sized pieces or will you go all at once?
Probably bite size. Yeah, it's hard. We had the opportunity to take on work in Kansas City as well as Odessa and Amarillo, and it would have killed us. It really would have.
What do you think the responsibility of the community is to support entrepreneurs?
I tell you what really irritates me is when people go outside of this community for services, like hiring, architectural firms from Dallas. Well, we have great architectural firms here, or you name it. You name the business. It's all here. But they'll go out of here for I don't know why. So I think we need to just support our own.
So within Wichita, we have a lot of resources, like you mentioned, SCORE, and you were able to reach out to those folks and do that. So how does Wichita stand up against other communities when it comes to women in entrepreneurship?
I mean, I'd have to say we've done well here. I mean, you look around, there's a lot of women leaders here.
Well, and one thing is I've gotten to know a lot of those women leaders. A few of them are actually in this room this evening too as well. What can Wichita do better to highlight those types of success stories in this community?
Stuff like this, this kind of stuff. And one of the things that I really used is the media. I don't say used, but, they call me up and say what's going on, and I always talk to them.
Well, and that's one thing that I've learned from knowing for the past couple of weeks is the relationships that you build. That's what's helped you grow your business. I mean, the media calls you because they're looking for something, and people are asking you to take on leadership positions on their board. And so at some point in time you had to you rose to the challenge and said, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to be out there and do this. And I don't feel there's a question, but more of a statement of just a lot of people need to take note of how you operate in your business. I mean, you are an amazing woman leader in this community who a lot of people need to take note of how you do it too.
I appreciate that.
No, absolutely. Other questions from the crowd?
So you mentioned about how your dream is to go nationwide, which I admire and applaud you for that. As your company has grown and companies have grown, was there a time where you remember seeing a bigger picture outside of the confinements of where you were, and then were there steps that you implemented to get there?
We just kind of took it and ran with it. Like when we were offered the Amarillo and Odessa, we just kind of said, yeah, we'll do that. But, sometimes that's not too smart. Oh, yeah, that was the other part. We had like 2 weeks' notice to do that.
Well, and so it sounds like from a lot of your experiences, it's been like, we'll figure it out. And so, and so your leadership style is you allow your team to figure it out. So, so you have 2 weeks. So what happened in those 2 weeks?
We just had to scramble to get trucks and hiring people and all that. It's just like we just took on the Mays schools, 15 schools, 1.5 million square feet. And so we had to strip and wax all the floors and do all the carpets. Well, there was another contractor in there before, and he was supposed to do about 50% of it. He ended up doing like 15% of it. So we scrambled. Now, I'll say that. I walked in, and Brian, my COO, I thought he was going to lose his mind. He really looked like he was ready to pop. I sent him a text and said, I am worried about your well-being. But he figured it, he just figured it out. We'd talk every day, and there would be days he'd send me a text and go, can't talk, I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere,
Well, and so how do you support your team? Because you're one who doesn't micromanage, but you take care of your employees. And so, what's your management style when it comes to managing the two businesses?
I don't know what the style would be.
That says a lot right there. He says they'll do anything for you.
I believe that. You just got to be good to your employees. Your business is only as good as your employees. Mm-hmm. And if you don't take care of them, you are going to go down the tube.
No, absolutely. We, at Startup Grind, right behind you, we have our values, and that's very much what it sounds like you do that exactly when you run both of your organizations, and what you do a lot for this community too as well. So let's give Anita one more round of applause.